Everybody, welcome. This is Path of Light. This is the third installment of this particular course that has 4 installments. This one goes over what is technically whiteboard number 5, 6, and 6.5 in the showcase materials that I have on Vimeo, the recorded whiteboards there that are on the separate platform there, okay? But please know that what is labeled as whiteboard number 6 is actually whiteboard number 5, which is what I'm going to talk to you about today, photosynthesis. But I recorded that in the middle of the night several years ago, and I did not know that I was doing number 5 when I said the wrong thing years ago. So please forgive me for that mistake. There's not an easy way for me to edit that and change it. I never mean to be confusing. And that also explains why my voice sounds very hushed in that recording when you hear me speaking. It's because literally I was doing it like from my bed in the middle of the night, because I get a lot of these insights sometimes spontaneously, and then I record them. Okay, so I'm pulling up my notes over here. So once again, I'm going to invite and encourage. Now you can tell I'm starting to get serious here. Invite and encourage everyone who is a part of this class to really watch those whiteboards, because hold on, let me just admit someone to the meeting. I think that the whiteboards explain and describe things incredibly well, and I will try to mirror what I've done from there, but go over those original recordings because I think that I draw things out with very, very good details. I will take a few shortcuts here in our class today, but I'll go over the full thing so that way you will be able to get all of the ideas that I'm sharing with you, okay? So what I've spoken about in this class so far are things that are on the macroscopic level, the level of stars and even black holes, the warping of the fabric of space-time and consciousness on an enormous scale, much, much larger than the physical individual body that we're all in. But today, what I'm going to talk about is the warping of the fabric of space-time on a tiny microscopic level. And that this also involves the path of light. And this also involves, sorry, I get interrupted by having to admit people to the meeting. This also involves the shape of reality, but on a much, much smaller scale. And when, I'm sorry, but I have to say this. Thank you and welcome to any students who are coming in right now. If you come in late, that is totally fine. You must meet yourself. I can't deal. Thank you. It is hard enough for me to be able to do this without people doing that. Thank you. On this tiny microscopic scale, what we're going to talk about is not only the interaction of light and gravity, but also how light, which is information, is in a constant flux between the state of being pure energy and matter. You can imagine it. It is flowing on its journey. It doesn't get caught or stuck in matter in any way. It intentionally forms itself as matter, and then it is eventually released through the process of either combustion, cellular respiration, or oxidation. All the things that I'm going to talk about today are described by the world of observable science. I'm going to use a lot of scientific terms and even notations. I'm going to encourage everybody not to be intimidated. I'm going to take it from the top so that you can be totally comfortable with the way that I'm sharing and describing things. It is a little bit like learning another language or learning musical notation, but it's worth it so that you can have the deep comprehension of what is happening on a molecular level of how matter is created, and have the comprehension of how light, which is pure intelligence or pure sentience or pure information, is creating or informing or shaping matter. And all of this has a direct impact on you and your journey. So first thing is, I've spoken about this last week in our class. Light itself is all the way at the far side of my graph, the right side of your screen, hopefully, which is a beam of light that is not matter, that has no weight, and it does not really experience space-time in the way that matter-formed stuff experiences space-time, and that it does not also conform to gravity in the way that the beautiful teacher Einstein has shared with people for a long time, gave you some help, but also some limitations, kind of making it appear as if, almost as if light is like a bicyclist or a bowling ball that is rolling along. Like if here's the flat plane of gravity, right? And here's the bicyclist with bowling ball, it goes along, and then all of a sudden it finds a well, and it kind of goes like, like it's rolling downhill or something like that. I need to drink. I need to hydrate clearly. I'm on a marathon. I'm already thirsty. I need to hydrate. I might need electrolytes. Light does not conform to gravity in that way. Light is not like a rolling wheel that rolls along and then kind of falls down a well. So those are all conventions. And also, of course, I'm going to write a lot of diagrams for you. And when I draw my diagrams, I'm going to draw them as if I'm drawing a flat plane that has these divots or dimples inside of it. But please know that it's not a flat plane. I'm going to call upon you as experts here doing the heavy lifting with your brain muscles to know that it's actually a spherical deformation in the fabric of space-time. But it's very, very hard for me to draw a diagram that looks like a sphere with all of these arrows pointing inward. It just ends up looking like a hairy spider. So I'm like, I cannot draw that. People will not understand this. So I'm going to draw it as if it's a flat plane, but you with your mind have to add additional dimensions of comprehension to it to know I'm actually representing something that is a sphere, that is a dimpling. Now, when I draw this, it's very, very similar to these concepts that I've put forward, where I'm always showing the fabric of space-time, something heavy is on top of it that stretches the fabric of space-time all the way down to the singularity. That's the infinite stretchiness of the fabric of space-time and consciousness. But today we're going to explore the moderate stretchiness of the fabric of space-time and consciousness, where it's not stretched into an infinite well all the way down. It's just stretched a small amount. And there's actually different degrees of stretchiness. Like you can be stretched a little bit, you can be stretched even deeper. And of course, I use my patented lighthearted sense of humor. I call these comfy chairs. I call these stretched out areas of the fabric of space-time and consciousness the comfy chairs, where beautiful atoms snuggle together in order to become molecularly bonded. Yes, that is correct. So in all of this, I hope that you will take it seriously, even as I try to present these as very lighthearted ways. I'm trying to make things very accessible and unintimidating, so that way you can feel comfortable with the materials that I'm sharing with you. So I've taken a few shortcuts, like I said, screenshots out of my recorded whiteboard, so that way I can just, you won't have to watch me laboriously writing out all of these scientific notations. You're like, wait a minute, Aurora, you just said scientific notations. I'm freezing up, my spine, I'm tensing. What's going to happen? I'm like, there will be scientific notations, and there's also a bug in here, and there will be molecular chemistry. Dun, dun. Oh no, molecular chemistry. Yes, yes, everyone, it's going to happen. Okay, so just to put concerns aside, this would be very, very much fun. Yeah, I wasn't quite sure how to approach this, if I should take like the super serious route or the super approachable, lighthearted route. I'll mix a little bit of both in together. But first, let's just start with simple questions, okay? If you guys have ever grown a house plant or ever grown a garden, what is required for a plant to grow? We're just going to start from your five senses reality, and then we'll work upward from there. And you guys are all super intelligent and you have experiences in the world. You can answer this for me. What do you need? You're like, well, you need soil. Yeah. You need the plant. Yeah. What else do you need? You need water. Plants die without water. What else do you need? You need light, correct? You need sunlight to keep the plants alive. And what else do you need? Well, you need air, right? But you need a different component from air than what we require. We require oxygen. Plants require carbon dioxide, okay? So these are the three main components for photosynthesis. You need to have the carbon dioxide, water, and light. And light, in the way that this is described, is often shared or presented as a type of impersonal, just energy, something that doesn't have meaning or anything like that, like just random energy, like sprinkle some light on top of there and make the whole thing happen. Light is the key component to making all of this happen. As you're starting to recalibrate your mind into what is happening, as light is on its journey, light is on its journey. It's a transformative metamorphose, meaning state changing journey. And it's going to be from energy into matter and then from matter back into energy. As it does that very intentionally. And it does that by transforming the fabrics of space-time at a very, very small level. All right. And diving right in, the light that comes in for photosynthesis is very intentional. It doesn't say, oh no, I accidentally became part of a plant. Like I'm a beam of light. I am a beam of light. And I'm just going along on my day. And all of a sudden, boom, like I just get stuck on a leaf somehow and became part of the world of matter. No, it is not an accident. It is not something that is by mere happenstance. It is definitely something incredibly intentional where the beam of light goes on its journey and chooses to become a part of matter by becoming a part of a plant. And that's one of the things that can happen when a beam of light is coming from the sun or the star. It can, of course, bounce off of an object. So if it bounces off of the green leaf of the object, it's going to hit your eye. It's going to look like the color green, but it's not becoming matter, although it is stimulating your retina. We're talking about what happens when light comes from, I'm holding all of my things here so I can't gesture. Light comes from the sun and then it hits a leaf and it actually becomes part of that leaf and it actually helps that leaf to grow. So I wanted to share that with you too. Here in my room, I have my computer, but all around my computer, I have like a beautiful house plant, a beautiful fern over here. I have another plant over here. And when I first got them, they were relatively small. They were this small. And then I put them over here. And then every day, light has come in my window. And I have poured small amounts of water into their containers. And now they are this big. They manifested that much matter. Of course, it took like a couple of years, but that's how much matter came into reality as a result of this sentience, consciousness-based experience of metamorphose that I am here witnessing. And just this is my big message to you, to be aware of the fact that you're submerged in a world of miracles, that you are a miraculous unlikelihood presence, and so is or are all of these other organisms around you. And to be aware of the light and the intelligence and the, again, I can only find one word for it, miraculous nature of these interactions that are happening all around you. So when you really start to comprehend what's going on with photosynthesis, you won't take it for granted. You'd be like, wow, miracle right there, miracle right there, miracle right there. And this also has a huge aspect of recalibrating your relationship with food. There's a lot of cultural judgment about food, about eating, about ingesting things. Sometimes it is food orthodoxy, like always eat this, never eat this, for either ethical or health concerns. But I want you to know that the food that you eat is made out of light, and you're supposed to eat it. You're not waylaying light on its journey. Again, the light is not like I'm going along on my day and then all of a sudden I became part of a tree and all of a sudden I became part of an apple and then some stupid human or some stupid animal came along and ate me and I got stuck in the world of matter. No, none of that Gnostic philosophy of light, light being imprisoned as matter. No, none of that at all. Very, very intentional. The light being like, it is my job and my mission. I am going to become an apple and I am going to get eaten by that person on that day, or that deer or that squirrel on that day. And I am going to experience what it is to be digested and then cellular respiration, transformed and released back into the form of light that is a different form of light. That's that piece of light or photon. That's that photon's journey. It's its job. It's that journey. It's that mental narrative that I'm drawing. If I go through all of the diagrams like I did for last week, that's what's in that diagram. The concept of becoming an apple, the concept of being eaten by an organism, the concept of being released through cellular respiration and kinetic energy. Let me hydrate again. Never going to apologize. I'm literally on a marathon here. So let's get going with imagery, because I think that this will also really help you. The first thing is, here, I'll just do a generalized share. And I'll draw on top of, oops, wait. Oops. Oh my goodness. Okay, so none of this is working for me. Try it again. Because I have to first collapse this, then grab this. But then once I do that, then I can't do this. So then I have to do this, and then I have to do this. But I already did that before. And I already called up my imagery, and my imagery is not here. And that is terrible. Guys, I'm telling you, I called up the imagery, and it was right here. I did all my squinting and scrolling before class. And it's not fair. It's all right there. It's all right there. I don't know why it didn't show up before, but this is this nonsense that we go through sometimes. Boom. Let's do it properly now. Screen share again. Kapow. This and this. Hooray. Even that is like such an enormous task. Okay, hi everyone. Back to Path of Light feelings. This is a leaf. This little drawing here is meant to be a leaf, all right? And the first thing I want to say is this is everything that I just spoke about with words, but now we're starting to use diagrams and alphanumerics to tell you what's going on in a more direct way. Let's talk about these scientific notations over here. This is like jump out the window, scientific notations, no really. How can I even begin to say this here? First, I want to grab the right color because green is not the right color. Okay. When you see this letter C, that is always going to represent the atom that is known as carbon. When you see the letter O in all of my diagrams, it's always going to represent oxygen. And when you see the letter H, it's always going to represent hydrogen. And you can see the colors that I just used to underline each one of these will also be consistent throughout all of my diagrams in this class, because your brain really does work on color. When you see this little number that's over here, what that means is that there are 2 hydrogen. So in this sharing, I've got water. I think you guys are super familiar with water, and you are also probably very familiar with calling water H2O. What that means is that there are 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen molecules that are snuggled together in their comfy chair. They are molecularly bonded. Over here, let's talk about carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is something that is in your atmosphere, but it is not visible to you, and it is highly maligned in your culture right now. It is a building block of life. It is not something bad. It is something very good and necessary. And this is why you have houseplants. Please tell me you have houseplants. They breathe in what you breathe out. You're in a beautiful reciprocal relationship with your houseplants. They help us a lot. Carbon dioxide, let's go with this. Carbon, that means there's 1 carbon, that's the C, and then O2, meaning that there are 2 oxygens, all right? So in this chemical equation, carbon dioxide plus water plus sunlight. And sunlight in all of my diagrams I make look like yellow squiggles, equals, and that's what this arrow over here is all about, leads to, or becomes, or transforms into. And now let's go down to this bottom row. It looks complex. Don't be intimidated. This is the molecule glucose, which is sugar. And that is, again, a basic building block of life and something that is necessary and positive for your survival in your own body. And oxygen. And let's talk about oxygen, because over here what you've got is a big number 6, then O and little number 2. What does that mean? It means that you have O2. These are oxygen molecules. Oxygen molecule, well, you can't just have one oxygen sitting around doing nothing. It's got to bond to someone. It always goes out with a friend. So it makes friends with itself. That's what that O2 is. The O2 is oxygen bonded to itself to pair. And this notation here means that you have 6 pairs. So class, what is 2 times 6? That is 12. You would have 12 individual oxygen atoms bonded together into 6 pairs. That's what that means. And because this is all oxygen, what is that? That's the gas, the gaseous form that you're familiar with for breathing in and staying alive. Now let's go over here to this area where you have C6. That means you have 6 individuated carbon atoms. You have, let's change colors because I'm going to keep this really cool for you, 12 hydrogen atoms. And then you have, let's again, changing colors here, 6 oxygen atoms. All right. And all of those are bonded together into one large molecule. That's the recipe that we call glucose. Like cake is made out of flour, sugar, and other good stuff like that. Glucose is made out of this much carbon, this much hydrogen, and this much oxygen, and they are all bonded together. So what we've done here is basically take the ingredients of carbon dioxide and water, and critical ingredient here, sunlight, which is intelligence, sentience, and the things that actually causes the transformation of the fabric of space-time and consciousness, and have rearranged those puzzle pieces into glucose and oxygen. This is literally what creates the process of photosynthesis here and the translationary pattern of light into matter at the level of a plant, an alive plant. So glucose comes from plants. Plants make this molecule for us. We get it from them. Not only does this process of plants creating a glucose molecule, a sugar that we can use to stay alive, help keep us alive, but then they also create the beautiful oxygen that also helps keep us alive. Okay? This is a very, very amazing relationship that we have. And once again, I'm going to super emphasize the importance of sunlight here, because it's not just random, it's the actual critical ingredient of the recipe. It's like the words of the recipe, because of course, when you have ingredients like here's flour, sugar, and eggs, or whatever, like that is still not cake. There are procedures that must be followed. And what are some of those procedures? Like cracking the eggs, taking out the shells, combining certain measured ingredients together. These procedures must be followed. Otherwise, you just end up with slop, right? Okay. So now I have to kind of like step out of the whiteboard, go back into the whiteboard in order to get my next thing. Wait, let's go to the next one. Okay, good. Kapow. No. Java Jack. Didn't work. Try again. You guys have no idea how difficult this is. Let a stupid thing try again. No, stop share. Stop. Stupid computer. Yeah, from now on, I call every computer stupid computer. My face is so unhappy right now. I have no idea. Okay, stupid computer, let's do this, please. Very taxing. Try again. Miracles do occur. Santa Claus is real. Hooray. Okay, good. Back to the path of light, everyone. Okay, so what I have prepared for you over here is a screenshot from the actual path of light whiteboard where I did all this ahead of time. So that way, first I can show you with alphanumerics how these guys are bonding. Then I'm going to draw it for you, and that will bring it all home. So this is exactly what I had written for you on the first screen. You have over here carbon dioxide, and over here you have water. And let's draw for you what I'm going to do or what's going to happen. First, in order to utilize this recipe, you have to break apart these molecules. The C and the O2 have to get broken apart. They are molecularly bonded in their comfy chairs together. They cannot stay bonded in order for this to happen. So the first thing is these guys have to be split apart. And what's going to happen is all of this oxygen here is going to split off and become a gas, and it's going to fly away, possibly to be breathed in by you one day. All right. So we're going to just, I want to, have some way of kind of like showing you like, that's not there anymore. All right. That has split off and flown away. And then let's count over here, just like we're on Sesame Street. Over in, this is the molecule for glucose. We need to have 6 carbon atoms, right? Well, let's count. Where do we have 6 carbon atoms? We have them right here. Let's count together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. And then we are going to need to have 12 hydrogens. Wait, let me get the right color. The right color. 12. Gonna have to have 12 hydrogen atoms. Let's count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. That's what all of this goodness is right here. Okay, so you've got all of that goodness right there. But what's the issue? Over here, we're going to have 6 oxygen molecules. Definitely want that. 6 oxygen molecules. Where are we going to find them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So they're right there. You've got all of your recipe ingredients all prepared and ready to go. But the key point is this molecule has to get split apart as well, because everybody is deep down in their comfy chairs together and they are, let's say, a little bit lazy. They're not feeling that active in their snuggly way. So you have to split them apart as well. To split them apart. And then as all of these atoms become unaffiliated, they then are free to be rearranged and to all go into this formation, which is what we call glucose and is the important sugar that is the foundation building block for your life. That dance movement of rearranging these molecules is what the light does. The light is not merely a stupid energy that tells the plant like, oh, like, here's like warmth and, illumination and I can see type of light. It's light that is like, here is what you do in your life type of light. Like, here is where you go and what you do and how you behave type of light. All right. So I hope that that was all clear. Now I'm going to draw this for you. I hope that you're with me. I'm telepathic. I'm kind of reaching out. I'm like, are you guys doing okay? Like, are you with me? Okay, good. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. Let's keep going. All right. So now this is that, all of that, what I just shared with you is actually pretty standard. And now what I'm going to share with you is my contribution. This is how I have figured out a new way to be able to conceive of and diagram what is happening. And the first thing is I'm going to draw, let me get a better, you know me and all of my manias here. I'm like, that line is not fat enough. Fatter lines, please. I am going to draw for you once a pretty good drawing of a vortex kind of coming inward like this. Oh, that's a terrible drawing. I'm just going to draw it, with details once. And then from then on, you'll have to use your imagination because I don't have the time and patience to draw it perfectly every time. But I'm trying to draw this as a vortex that goes some of the way down, but not all the way to infinity. And then, of course, this is the fabric of space-time. Like you've got more fabric that goes in this direction, more fabric that goes in this direction. If I draw too much, the drawing gets confusing to your brain. So just kind of keep it simple. But please understand, this is like a moderate, nice little, kind of like I joke about golf courses, like the green is smooth, then there's a little place where the golf ball can go into. All right, it doesn't go all the way down, it goes part of the way down. Okay, and I'm going to simplify that drawing now that I just drew it so perfectly. I'm just going to simplify it to look like this, so that way you don't get too confused with too many lines. And now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw carbon dioxide. Carbon is black, and I'll kind of make this look like a black bowling ball. And then the oxygen molecules are always going to be blue, blue, and blue over here. Okay, so that's carbon dioxide. 1 carbon, 2 oxygen. I'm going to write it out for you. Here's the O2, and then we'll write the carbon. CO2, all right? In order for that CO2 to do its thing in photosynthesis, the first thing is we have to do that breaking of the molecules. You gotta unbond these guys. They are in the comfy chair together. The comfy chair is a small gravitational well, and they are stuck together because of the formfulness of the fabric of space-time. And I call this the comfy chair because when you're in your comfy chair, you're in a relaxed state. What happened to these molecules is that they actually got told by light, here is light, that they need to go on down in there and just sit down and relax. And so think about this is you. This is you in your most comfy chair in your house, and maybe you've got your dog and your cat both sitting on your lap. You're like, I'm so comfy. I am not going anywhere. And when you have that moment of kind of like, plopping down into your comfy chair, what actually happens is light is emitted. You're like, none of this makes sense. I'm already jumping out the window. I'm going somewhere else. No, please stay. Please stay. Please don't go anywhere. Because you want to think that when bonds are broken, light is emitted. But what actually happens is light is emitted when bonds are created. So this bond was created. These guys went down into the comfy chair and light was emitted. In order to get these guys up out of their comfy chair, what do you need to do? You need to add energy. You need to have some kind of an impetus, a motivation, a something that comes along and says to them, hey, it's time to get up. You can also think of this as like you're being in your bed and that your alarm clock has to go off in order to tell you, hello, it's time to get up. You need to get moving, move it, move it, move it. So light is literally that information that comes to this molecular structure and it tells it time for you to get moving. Got it? I'm emphasizing this over and over throughout this class. This is a continuum. Light into matter and matter into light. The light goes to the matter. This is matter over here. And the light says, hey, matter, it is time for you to start to get moving. So that light has to come into here, break this molecular bond, and get both of those molecules to come up out of their comfy chairs. And when we do that, what you end up in the diagram is something like this. Get back to that. Oh, that is not the right color. Yeah. I'm like, where did that color come from? I have the right thing going over here. Okay, no, that is not right. Nothing is working. Everything is wrong. Let's do blue instead and see if that will make the machine happy. That is not making the machine happy. I don't know what is going on right now. Let's try it again. That's still not right. Okay, I'm gonna get it, guys. You don't know how hard this is. Hooray. The object not drawn to scale, but we got the right colors. Oxygen, oxygen, And then carbon. Carbon over here. Whew, I know. Okay, so let's just get past that emotional energy and recognize that light entered into here and made this carbon atom jump up here, and these two oxygen atoms jump over to here. And then that is the unbonded form of carbon dioxide. And when that light made those guys jump up, what happened also is the transformation of the fabric of space-time. And this became ironed out. That became straight. There is no more of this little comfy chair. Think about it like you jumped up because the phone rang or something like that. The cat jumped off your lap, the dog jumped off your lap, and the chair disappeared. Okay? That is what happened. Now we have to move on to the next diagram. The first thing I'm going to draw is 6 of those simplified small vortexes. This is how you do molecular bonding and unbonding. This is why you're going to have to use your imagination. These are not perfectly drawn. Imagine that the vortexes, all right? Now let's draw carbon, carbon, carbon. Here's carbon, carbon, carbon. Ooh, that one, he's a little bit off of the fabric of space-time. Just go with it. Carbon, carbon, carbon. That guy's floating slightly. Now let's do oxygen. Oxygen, 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 oxygen. You're like, are she done yet? Not done yet. Keep going. Got 2 more to go. Oxygen, oxygen. Good. Oxygen, oxygen. Whew, did it. All right. So that's carbon dioxide. And that's the ingredients that we're working with on the ingredients list. And in order to be able to make glucose, we got to get those guys up and out of their comfy chairs. And then we got to get ready for breaking apart the molecular bonds of water as well. So first, let's get these guys. Light comes in. And let's imagine here's a bunch of light coming in. And I'll make it like kind of light, look like light. Light comes in, light comes in, light comes in. And as that light comes in, what's going to happen? You're going to get these guys to jump on up out of their comfy chairs. Let's make it happen. Make it like this. These guys are going to be up here. These guys are going to be up here. They're no longer sitting down in a relaxed state. They're up here, they're up here, they're up here. And it took energy to make that happen. And let's also put carbon here, carbon here, carbon here, carbon here, here, and here. Erase these guys over here because they're not down in that zone anymore. All right? This eraser is not that accurate, so I have to be very careful. I don't erase the fabric of space-time, just the molecules. Did a good job. Fantastic. Now let's draw the water. So this is a slightly different set of vortexes. Let's make it a different size because otherwise I'm not going to fit everything on this canvas, I want to say. All right. Oh, we're also working with 6 of these. Remember? I'm not going to have enough space. Where am I going to put all these guys? There. Good. Okay. Water, remember everyone, is H2O. So let's start off with 1 O in each of these little guys. Here's an oxygen, 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 oxygen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just making sure I'm doing it right for you. And then here's our 2 hydrogens. Stick with me. Stay focused. You can do it. I believe in you. Hydrogen, 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 hydrogen. Again, light comes in. Light comes in, changing to a light color. Light comes in and it touches each one of these little guys. And what does it do? It makes them get out of their comfy chair and balance beautifully on the edge of that vortex. They jump out of their chair, the chair disappears. So let's put these guys up here. They're now on the edge of the vortex. They're up here on the edge of the vortex. It's going to be worth it. This is so worth it. Stick with me. You can do it. And then also the big giant oxygen glob is going to be up here, 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 and here. And then let's erase them from their little comfy zones because they are not there, including you. You, get out of here. You're not there. You're not there. Doing great, doing great. Everybody has now gone up to their unbonded state. These are all now areas of the fabric of space-time that are not divots. They are neutralized. Cannot see that color. Find a better color. They're like neutralized. These are all flat. There's no chair there for them anymore because you want to know what makes this happen. Like you get up because the phone rings, but you also get up because your chair disappears. You cannot be seated anymore. Get up, get up, get up. All right? I'll draw all these lines for you because then the next thing that's going to happen is an even more comfy chair is going to be presented for you. Let's call this the super comfy futon or something like that. Here, make it even a little fatter for us. Super comfy couch is over here, and that's this. And this is going to be glucose. And what we're going to do is we are going to see all of these guys that are over here get on down into here and make that beautiful glucose molecule. But as I said, all of these guys, I kind of stopped myself because I forgot that I needed to remind us all that at least 6 of these oxygens are going to be flying away as gas. They are not going to be coming down. They are going to be flying away as gas. So let me just make sure that I have that correct and that I'm following my notes correctly. Hold on a moment. What? Yes. Oh, sorry. No, I had it wrong. 12 of them. Sorry. That's why I wanted to make sure that I'm saying this correctly to all of us. 12 of them will be flying away. 6 of them will be staying with us. And now I can't see where I am. There we go. Okay. So page break, rewind. So all of these blue dots are the oxygen, right? And some of them will go and be a part of the glucose molecule, but some of them are going to fly away. So the ones that go and are a part of the glucose molecule, it's going to be six of them. 12 of them are going to fly away. So first, let's circle the 6 that are going to become a part of the actual glucose molecule. They are going to jump down into the new super comfy sofa that we're moving into the living room over here, or that we've just created and built out of the fabric of space, time, and consciousness. Those guys are all going to go down there. All right? Jump, 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 jump. That is what the recipe in the fabric of light tells those guys to do. But these guys are all going to jump away. They are going to fly away as a gas. Again, perhaps to be breathed in by you one day. Oh, I just erased the fabric of space time. I didn't want to do that. Okay, let's get these guys out of here. You're going to get it. It's going to be amazing. Fantastic. Stick with me. Hydrate. No, that one went too far. Good. I know. Did it. And then we're also going to have all of these wonderful hydrogens come on down, and all of these wonderful carbons come on down. All of these guys are all going to jump down into this new creation receptive receptacle for molecular snuggling that is going to happen. And what you're going to end up with is, now let's draw it for you. Just hold on a second. I'm really going to focus. Not even walking on my treadmill. That's how focused I'm going to be. Okay, C6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How about 6 of these blue oxygens? Let's get them in there. Let's make them a slightly different size, just for your eyes to feel slightly different. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now let's count up these red dots. How many of them are there? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Hey, that's great because that's exactly the number of hydrogen that we actually need to make the glucose molecule, to make them smaller. And let's put these in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Hooray, you just made a glucose molecule. And so then, of course, all of this stuff over here, I'll make a giant fat line for us. All of this stuff over here is erased. That is not there. And all that you have now are these remaining atoms that are snuggling or smooshed together in this gravitational small well, but it is a larger well than the ones they came out of. And that all of that took light. It took light. I'll go back to my face, give you all like a little mental break here. It took light. It took light to first break those bonds because those bonds were stuck together in gravity. And then from that potential, it took light to rearrange those bonds and put them into a new format. And that is the process of light becoming matter. Key points, it's highly intentional. Also, key points, it's a dance. It's non-random. It's not like you dance with any dance partner, like, give me an oxygen, any random carbon, any random this and that. No, these are all very, very intentional. Like you're like literally taking that molecule there and that molecule there, and we are going to bring them together very, very intentionally. So when I talked to you last week about the states of matter and how the more heat that you add to a state of matter, the more intelligent it becomes. But that Earth's current level of science is not advanced enough to be able to perceive the complex dance patterns of when you move from like a liquid to a gas, and how the molecules are, yes, more expansive, less dense, moving faster, yes, moving in faster, more patterns, more information crammed into time. And that's because it takes intelligence to recognize intelligence. So in these processes of molecular unbonding and then rebonding into new patterns, none of this is done randomly. All of this is done very, very intentionally according to a much, much larger cosmic recipe of pure divine intelligence that is miraculous, that is life-sustaining, that is so large that it is almost too much for human neurology to conceive of, but that we must conceive of this and know about this in order to be able to master matter. What I'm giving you is the recipe that you need to be able to master matter, because you are made of light. And once you embody and comprehend that you are made of light, you are the light that is changing the fabric of space, time, and consciousness, because you are consciousness, into these new patterns and causing things to come apart and come together. All right. So let's do recap. The process of going from light into matter is this process of photosynthesis. The process of going from matter into light, I said processes because that's what my brain wanted to remind us all, are combustion, oxidation, and cellular respiration. And all of those things have in common the idea that you will be adding oxygen to a thing. So in my original creation of and conception of this curriculum, I was like, well, yeah, like I should just do like how to take glucose in your body, and then like how do you burn or cellularly respirate glucose into energy. Like, I just had some nice good cookies before I walked on my treadmill here. So I'm using that matter and I'm transforming it into energy and into light. Let's do that. And then I learned about it. And I'm like, yeah, this is so complex. It is literally like a 13-stage process. It would be very, very complex and very, very confusing. It's not the best entry position for your mind to be able to comprehend the journey of matter back into light. So let's choose something a lot more accessible that is just simple combustion. All right. And so we're not going to work with glucose. We're going to work with methane, which is a gas. And actually, before we just jump into combustion, I want to just rewind a little bit to the importance of glucose. because glucose is the sugar that we use as the foundation of life, and it's in our bodies. Glucose becomes a chain of molecules that we know as cellulose, which is a fiber. And that cellulose is what we see in plants that gives them their upright structure. And also, that is mostly what we utilize for different projects. And so, purposes. Hold on one moment, please. Came through. Cellulose is what literally becomes wood. And that makes it possible for us to do things like build a campfire, have a fireplace, create a torch. That if you didn't have cellulose, you would not have plants that have structure. You would just mostly have kind of like mosses and the type of plants that have very, very small leaves that kind of, grow along the ground, not tall trees, nothing with a stem, not a blade of grass. And think about also like how important these fibers are to human civilization, the ability to create woven baskets, grasses, reeds, and things like that, tools that we use. The fiber and the cellulose is a very, very important part of that aspect of light. Like, let's say, the building of culture and the complexities of what we can do with that. All right. So cellulose comes from glucose. Glucose comes from light. A block of wood is stored up light. Light is moving on its journey. It's just me. I'm like moving on my journey, moving on my journey, moving on my journey. And then I choose to become a part of the world of matter through photosynthesis. And then I'm not moving on my journey anymore. I am a piece of matter. But you can take that matter and you can make it hang around for a while. It can become a living tree, of course. It can be wood that is part of a living being. You can cut down that tree. You can turn it into a sailing ship, a torch, as I said before, chest of drawers. It can exist for hundreds or possibly longer, many number of years, but then eventually it can be transformed into light again through either the process of combustion or through the process of oxidation, which is really what, when you have like a compost pile, that is what you really have. You have a very slow, non-illuminative, like does not emit optical light, but you have a slow breakdown of that material back into its form of light. The process of decomposition is really a process of the re-release of light from its physical form. So it helps light it helps light to move through time. Because what did I tell you last week? Do you guys remember? Light does not experience time in the same way that the physical embodied linear human does. You wake up in the morning, you have your breakfast, then you have your lunch, then you have your dinner. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Light does not experience time in that way. Light experiences breakfast, lunch, dinner, not telescoped into three separate experiences, but all at overlapping simultaneously at the same time. And although it is truthful that you can see a laser beam as it is moving laterally, especially if you put smoke or dust or something like that underneath it, mostly what is happening with human eyesight is the presumption of the journey of light from point A to point B. Mostly what is happening is light is at point A and then it is perceived at point B. And the human eye and the human mind makes up a story that says it was over here, now it is over here. It must have traveled from here to here through this linear structure, because that's how I do things, right? Like a bicycle rolls along the road, a bowling ball rolls along the road, I walk along the road, photon walked along the road. No, that is not what happened. So again, of course, we can see with our eyes something that is a focused beam, such as a coherent beam of light, a laser, under certain circumstances. But that when light is not polarized in that particular way, Mostly what we simply do is perceive that light has emerged from one place and emerges into another place. And there's a presumptive narrative of the connection of those two events. That is part of your quantum observership. So good job, like you're making things happen in reality, but it is not totally accurate. There is some inaccuracy, or it is only your mind telling you a certain portion of the story. And that is what's appropriate for your level of perception and development, but you're moving into a new level of perception and development. So when you perceive one beam of light, you're like, I am just seeing the one beam of light that is coming to me from the sun or the star, but I'm not perceiving the totality of all light because it's actually spreading outward in a 360-degree larger than you sphere. I know it's not 360 degrees, that is simply a circle, but you understand a spherical shell, and you're not perceiving all of the shell, just one tiny little slice of that spherical cake. And as you perceive that tiny slice, you're like, oh, that's the totality of reality. And I'm like, that is not the totality of reality. But if you perceive the totality of reality, you would be incinerated. So you need to accelerate so that way you can perceive the totality of reality and not be incinerated. And that's what this information is. It is like you're heavy lifting so you can get stronger so that way you can contain more light yourself. I'm going to hydrate, and then we're going to get into combustion. Wait, and I know myself so much. I'm like, let's get ready. We will need more water for more combustion. And I might need to respond to a question because sometimes I try not to get distracted until the end of class. Because I have all of this like Jenga towered in my brain where I'm trying to remember a lot of things. But let's see if I can do this without getting too distracted myself. Okay. All right. So Martin is totally on target here. He says, and thank you for being here. Light makes gravity and unmakes gravity is what I get. Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I'm celebrating your intelligence. Thank you for saying that so succinctly. There's a relationship between light and gravity. It's not the same as light going along like this and then whoop, going down a hill the same way a bicycle rolls down a hill. Light and gravity interact, but light is actually making gravity through transforming that fabric of space-time. Why is the fabric of space-time shaped like it is? Because of intelligence. Why is the fabric of space-time shaped like it is? Because of the story. Remember in my diagram, here's the sun, here's the center, and then here's that story, the ballooning fabric of space-time and consciousness that comes outward. Why does it do that? Why is it shaped like that? Because it is light as consciousness, light as awareness, light as information, light as an organizational feature, organizing and making those events happen. Let's do combustion. I'll get to that question later, Kim Rose. It's a good question. We'll do that later. Okay, and pardon me, you can tell my voice is already tired on this marathon. I'm getting there. This, into the space. This, I did it. I did a thing, guys. Okay, so first of all, this is combustion easy. Glucose metabolism, hard to describe. Combustion easy. You're like, this is easy. This is easy. All right. Methane is a gas. A gas is a physical object. Although it is not very heavy, it is slightly heavy. It has some mass. So what we're talking about here, let me just grab a correct color. We're talking about taking methane and adding oxygen to it, which is the process of what combustion is. Combustion, cellular respiration, and oxidation all involve adding oxygen. And what we're going to end up with is carbon dioxide plus water plus energy. I just went way too fast for you. Let's talk about this. What we're doing is transforming matter back into energy. That is what combustion does. Oxygen is the transformative substance. When you breathe, I am breathing right now. I hope all of you are breathing too. You are adding oxygen. You're basically adding oxygen to the glucose in your body. And through the 13th stage, very, very simply described process, you come out with energy. But truthfully, this is what's happening. So let's say I wake up in the morning and I'm getting ready to make my coffee or my tea. I fill my kettle with water and then I put it on my stove. My stove is a gas stove. It's not methane. It is actually, I think it is natural gas, which is propane, but they are very, very similar. Okay. And then what happens if I just turn on the gas? Does anything happen? You're like, no, Aurora, that would be terribly, terribly dangerous. You would suffocate and then it would also be a fire hazard. Why? Why? Because you need to have the ignition to turn on the gas. You also must ignite the gas to then release the energy and place the kettle on top and add heat, light, intelligence to the kettle so that my coffee can make me more intelligent in the morning. That spark of light is what initiates this combustion event. You guys know this. You know that something doesn't just sit there and then suddenly burst into flames. Something has to make it start. That can be a spark. It can be a match. You guys are going to be hard asses on me. That's fine. You're like, well, what about spontaneous combustion? Spontaneous combustion does indeed happen. As an artist, we all know that you do not just throw your turpentine-filled rags into the trash. Why not? Because of spontaneous combustion. And that is what happens under very, very rare circumstances when you have chemical-soaked rags that can come together and start a fire even without a spark. But let's say that is a very, very unique peripheral situation. Someone out there is going to ask me about spontaneous human combustion, and then we're going to have a whole like Ripley's Believe It or Not kind of class here, which I would be up for, which is so cute. But let's stay focused. And let's say that under most ordinary circumstances, fires don't simply start themselves. That in order for the process of combustion to happen, there must be that initiatory spark. So here, this is a chemical equation that you're looking at. You have this gas plus this gas, and what happens is they combine together, and this arrow means a thing happens, a transformative event happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. And all of this has to equal all of this. That's what that means, okay? So don't be concerned by the way that I'm using this type of, numerical equation to show you how this is. Just know the arrow is like the equal sign, and everything over here are puzzle pieces, and everything over here are puzzle pieces, and that has to literally add up and be the same amount of puzzle pieces on both sides. All right. So you're going to be familiar with this. We have 1 carbon over here. We have 4 hydrogen over here. And then let's talk about 2 O2, because we've got the big 2 and the little 2. This is a pair of oxygen, and we have 2 pairs of oxygen. So that means we have 4 oxygen, and over here on the right, what we end up having is carbon dioxide plus 2 waters, that's H2O, plus energy. I can tell I'm still going too fast for you guys. So let's do it again. Just like the other process of creating glucose, we're going to have to break apart the methane. We're going to have to break apart the oxygen. Then we're going to have all of these puzzle pieces. Then we are going to have to put them all back together again into a new format. But the key point is when we put them together into this new format, we do a cool thing, which is release a huge amount of energy. And there's an intervening step. So if I haven't confused you enough, be prepared to be confused more. Let's confuse you more. Go to this picture over here, which is this. This into space. Get this over here. Okay. So this is the same thing that I was just talking to you about. This is that methane gas. This is the oxygen gas. And then there's an intervening step between being able to really cause this matter, which is gaseous matter, to be released into energy, which is optical light and heat. And that's this. We'll use yellow because that's important for your brain. That's this, the little spark. The spark is what breaks apart the molecular bonds of this gas and turns this into, here's a carbon, here's 4 of those hydrogen, and here's 4 of those oxygens. It's an intervening step. That little spark gets everybody up out of their comfy chairs and then causes everybody to rearrange into what you end up with, the byproducts of combustion: carbon dioxide, water, and then lots and lots of energy. And that lots of energy, some of it is optical, that's the yellow light, and then some of it is red, which is infrared, which is heat light. So when I turn on my gas on my stove in the morning, invisible gas emerges. A spark lights that gas. The spark is the little bit of energy here. The methane gas and the oxygen gas around the stove get transformed into this level of reality midway, and then rearrange into the byproduct of carbon dioxide, some water, and then lots of energy, which is, of course, the optical light. I can see the flame of fire, but also the heat light, which is really why we are burning the gas in that particular context. So this is a lot. I hope your brain's okay. I'm getting ready to draw this all out for you and make sure that I've got this. I have to consult my notes for a moment to make sure that I'm going to draw the correct number of vortices, but I'm going to draw this all out for you. And then I'll kind of we'll go over all of this, and I'll make sure that you're really comprehending it. And I'll talk a little bit more about states of matter and things like that. So let me consult my notes. Hold on. I'm going to draw it all out for you. Stop share. I'm going to pause for a moment. Okay, thank you. Just a little brief pause while I did all of this behind the scenes work in order to be able to draw these wonderful vortexes for everyone. Good. What do we have here? Get a good color. Up here in the top row is 1 carbon, 4 hydrogen. That's the CH4. That's the methane gas. All right. And over here, in the bottom row, sorry for the interruptions there. Get out of there. In the bottom row is oxygen. And you can see the oxygen is bonded with itself. The oxygen never goes out alone. It's always got a friend. It hangs out with itself when no one else is around. Everybody's down in their comfy chairs. Same procedure as before. In order to make this happen, first what you have to do is get that little spark of light. Here's that spark of light, spark of light, spark of light. That's getting all of these guys up out of their resting positions and into their neutral positions, where they will be ready to then reassemble in a completely new way. So first, let's draw that for everyone. These guys are going to go up here. That's carbon, carbon, carbon. All right. And all of the little hydrogens are going to get up out of their comfy chairs too. And if you can see, because you might be on your phone, it's tiny, but there's 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. And then these guys all get, don't erase the fabric of space-time. Just these little guys. There we go. Good. And then these guys also get erased. I want to say arrested. Erased. These guys get erased. And now let us draw the oxygen going where the oxygen needs to go. Remember that little spark makes these oxygens go up here. Boom, 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 boom. Everybody gets up. And then let's erase them out of where they are in their little tiny gravity wells. They're not down there. And oops, well, actually the fabric of space-time does kind of disappear. No, you need to stop talking to me and get out of here now. I turn off all of the notifications. I promise you guys, I can't deal with it. Life is hard enough. Back to path of light, path of light. Then what's going to happen is, so that's the interim. This moment right here is where we have the C plus 4H plus 4O, that interim moment where everything is unbonded. And now what we're going to do is bond everything together into their carbon dioxide plus 2 H2O. So let's make different, deeper molecular structures. And if you can see that. So first of all, let's work with carbon. All right. This guy is going to jump down into, wow, I mean, the giantest, fattest line I possibly could. He's going to jump down there. This guy's going to jump down there. This guy's going to jump down there. All right. So that's carbon, carbon, carbon. And let's erase them from up here. They are not balanced on the tips of those vortices anymore. In fact, those vortexes have all disappeared. That's why I don't want to, no, don't do it like that. Don't do it like that. Do it like this. They have all neutralized. That is now a flat plane, not a divot down there. All right. CO2. Let's bring down our oxygens. Not the right color. This guy is going to go down there. This guy right here is going to go down here. We're going to go O2. Carbon dioxide, carbon dioxide, carbon dioxide. All right. How many have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Awesome. Because look at that. Look at, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's exactly the right number of oxygens. So now we can erase those guys from up here. Actually needed a couple of other. I hope that I'm not going to confuse you. Get intense. Is no more. But then we've got hydrogen. What about this hydrogen? This hydrogen is sitting around here. The hydrogen actually needs to have a bunch of oxygen to bond with as well. We need at least 2 more oxygens for that. I didn't draw them for you properly, so that's why I didn't want to confuse you. Please know that there's at least 2 more oxygens. That's here and here. And that these, because you have 2, let's write it for you. 2 H 2 O. 2 times 2 is 4, right? And so that means that we're going to have at least 4 of these guys are going to come over here, and they're going to become part of this water. One, 2, there's some tiny lines to make them bigger. That's those guys over there. And then we will have to have some more oxygen to be able to take care of what's going on with these hydrogens over here, right? But I think that you guys are understanding what's happening. And the main point that I'm trying to get to is a lot of light. A lot of light. I hope that I didn't lose you in trying to get this part of the information across to you. It takes light to initiate this cascade of events. But as you get this cascade of events going, a huge, enormous amount of light is then released. So every time the gases go into this new format of becoming both carbon dioxide and water, they release an enormous amount of light. When you go down into your comfy chair, you get comfortable, you get snuggled down with your animals and release an enormous amount of energy. These guys all release an enormous amount of energy through this process. If apologies if it became unclear through my wild diagrams over here and through trying to count the right number of dots and make sure that that is evident to you. But the key takeaway is that when these guys unbond and then rebond, the new state that they're in down here is a more relaxed state that they were in before, and they're emitting a large amount of light as a result. Okay? If that wasn't confusing enough and difficult enough, all of my diagrams, of course, I've been showing you as if they are these flat planes. But now with your mind, I'd like you to think about it as if they are spheres, as if they are spherical deformation. These guys jump into the spherical deformation and they're in there bonded together as molecules. They get an impetus from light that says, jump out of your spherical deformation and now be not in any kind of gravity well. And then they get a new dance movement that says, jump into your spherical deformation. That's a new one. Deformation is not even the right word, because it's not that it's malformed or in the wrong form. It is just not a perfectly flat plane, but it's spherical, not something that is flat. So someone is going to say this is like doing the hokey pokey, and it is, because they're jumping in, then they're jumping out, and then they're jumping even more deeply in. And that process of jumping in and jumping out is literally a dance. It is literally a form of intelligence, and it contains light that is a language that needs to be deciphered by people in order to comprehend the magnificence of the complexities of the world that are all around you. Okay, so let's just take a little break. Not like a long break or whatever, not a formal break, but let's just have like relax your mind, relax your mind, relax your muscles. Okay, here's a question. Kim Rose, thank you for being here, says, what is the smell of a flower? Is that also light? It absolutely is light. So all of your senses, of your five senses realm, of your physical body here, you've got, of course, your eyesight, your ears, your smell, your taste, and your kinesthetic sense. All of this senses light, which is information, but it's coming through your biological filter. All right. So for aroma and for taste, these are molecular pieces of information that tell you about your environment. For your ears, it's compression waves, which are waves that make molecules get closer together and further apart. And for your eyes, it's optical light, which are these types of waves. How about, this is hard, for your kinesthetic sense? What is it? How are we feeling with our bodies? This is tough because there's pressure, there's hot, there's cold, there's pain, there's like prickliness sensations and all these things. That's, I think, one of the hardest sensations to be able to translate, because there are so many different forms of the tactile sense. But it is basically, it gets translated from whatever is the stimulation on your skin to a neurological symbolic symbol within your neurology of what these are. So I actually have an intention to be able to teach about what is happening on the retina, because there's a miracle happening on your retina 10 million times a day whenever you perceive light that is flowing as light, and then it becomes a neurological signal in your brain. But that process is kind of like the 13-stage process of glucose into physical ATP and all that. Very, very incredibly complex. So I have to admit, I'm very intimidated by trying to tackle that. So please know that there are amazing things that are happening. at the microscopic and submicroscopic levels within your body. Whenever light touches your retina and stimulates those cells, it becomes a neurological signal. The light is slowing down from the speed of light, and it is becoming part of the world of matter, and it is being interpreted through your interpretation system. It's an incredibly complex process of how that actually happens in the cells, in the retina perception cells of your body. And same thing with like whatever, if you feel the hairs on the outside of your skin, or if you feel touch on the outside of your skin, how that is translated through the pileatory muscles into your peripheral neurology and then into your central neurology, and how you then interpret that as building a viewpoint of the world. So you do the same thing with smelling and aroma. And the olfactory sense is one of the most difficult senses to fool, impersonate. So if you haven't noticed, and in this class, of course, we do not talk about like negative technological stuff and all the things I talk about in my other classes. But in the world of like virtual reality and augmented reality, mostly what they focus on, their software engineers, creators of that, focus on your visual sense and your auditory sense. Those two senses are much easier to create analogs and imposters of in a digital world. But the things that are the most difficult to create imposters of are the smell, taste, and the touch sense. And those are also, because smell, taste is kind of like really connected together. These are parts of how you sense the molecular realm. And it's been absolutely fine-tuned within your neurology because it's survival. It's about how you stay alive. If you can taste something and smell something, you can tell, is this a safe thing to eat? Is this a safe thing to be around? Is this a safe thing to touch? These are very, very early aspects, like primal aspects of being able to explore your environment, stay safe, and nourish yourself. And beyond simple navigation. That's why also like it's very, very difficult to fool your brain. Like, I think it's easier for people to be fooled with an illusory light that gives you a illusion or a hallucination that looks like a person or whatever, like a bear, a mountain lion, a tree. But if there is no smell, you know that it's fake. You know that it's not the real deal. But the smell is what tells you that something or someone is real. And I hope that you can even kind of reach back into your own levels of development, into early stages of your biology, when you were maybe a tiny child and you learned your mother's smell. That smell is primal. Mothers can smell their own children, even if the mothers are blindfolded. They know whose baby is their own baby. Babies know who is their mom based on their smell. I'm with my dog all the time. You guys know how much I love my little dog. And I have really learned about the world through seeing how she senses the world with her smell. For dogs, the sense of smell is primary. The sense of hearing is also like secondary. The sense of seeing is way, way, way down there on their list. Like dogs, of course, still need to see to navigate the world, but they do not see like we do. And we do not smell like they do. So oftentimes I'll be walking around with her and, she's taking me somewhere and I'm like, no, 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 we need to go in this direction. She's like, no, we need to go in this direction. And she takes me around a corner. And what happens? We see our friend is there. And I'm like, that's amazing. Like, how did she know that that person was there? And that's easy because she could smell them there. And I could not see them there, but she could smell them there. And there is this primacy of navigation for dogs to be able to see where are the people that they're familiar with, where are the spaces that they're familiar with, and they create a whole navigational map of the world that is based upon smells and scents and the aromas. And many organisms do this too, like bees do this. Bees literally communicate through pheromones primarily, and then secondarily through their dance, which is kinesthetic. And then way on down the line, they communicate through, other forms of their senses. So the five senses realm is different ways of adding emphasis or analysis to the world of pure light, which is the world of pure uncollapsed waveforms. And since we have time in class, and if your brains aren't liquefied, I will go into the phenomenon of the uncollapsed waveform or pre-matter. So I'm giving you words now, and I apologize so much. Like I always feel very like, I wish I'd done a better job because I'm trying to do, like really like bring some really difficult abstract concepts in here, bring them into a form of articulation. I'm always working on that. But that pattern of jumping in and out, the matter bonding and unbonding, I'm calling that a presence pattern. The pattern of the fabric of reality that holds together certain molecules, breaks them apart, and then sticks them together into new positions. I'm calling that a presence pattern, okay? And the level of matter before it is perceived, when it is just an uncollapsed waveform, I'm calling that pre-matter. All right, so if life isn't confusing enough, and you're not doing enough heavy lifting with your brain, let's go into what do I mean by pre-matter. I can draw, I was just looking down to see, like, should I draw this all out for you? Let's draw it out for you. Let's get a whole nice, fresh new whiteboard. Yeah, stop. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm already difficult. I'm already having trouble. Whole fresh white new whiteboard. Okay, so this goes back to the drawing of the sun. The tree over here, which I always make look like broccoli. And then your eye over here. Look, I didn't even make my lines fat. That's how like sloppy and fast I'm being here. All right, and your eye over here. So in the traditional linear model that we are coming out of, you've got light is emanating from the sun star, and it comes over here and it interacts with this tree. And some of it becomes a part of the tree, right? It literally photosynthesizes, it turns into matter, it becomes a part of that actual tree. Some of it does not. Some of it reflects and bounces and is beamed off, and it comes over here and it comes to your eye and it does amazing, miraculous things on your retina. That can't happen because technically this tree does not exist yet. Technically, this tree is not a tree yet. Let's come up with a new color and let's just draw over here a bunch. Oh, that's not the color that I wanted. I want this color. This is my color for pre-matter, kind of like a grayish neutral. This is what is actually over here. There is actually not a tree. There is just the potential for tree. And somehow what is happening is light is interacting with this potential before it is an object, before it is a tree. And then you are perceiving the potential of that waveform and of that object before it is even matter. And then you are perceiving it and you are creating it as matter with your observership. And that is actually the experience that you are transmitting back to the sun as a cognitive consciousness event, which is the activity of your neurology. I hope that that's not confusing to you. And if it is, please ask questions. Like I'm very open right now for you to be able to ask questions or request any improvement on anything that I can say right now. Okay. Oh, and I didn't tell you enough about that. Let's talk about that too. Okay. So wait. Presence pattern, because I just looked at my notes. So let me even read my notes. Okay. Matter rearrangement and atomic bonding as thinking. You're inside of a giant brain or a giant cognitive process. I have already characterized the activities of the sun and the stars as being directly analogous to the neurons in your brain, where you have all of these separate individual, seemingly individuated neurons that are communicating with one another. So that's one big aspect of the thinker, who is thinking, who is having cognitive experience, the stellar network, and that there's communication between these different nodes of light that are in the world and these different emitters that are in the world. Okay, so the stars talk to each other. That is a thought process. The stars talk to you. That is a thought process. You talk to the stars. That is another form of thought process. Matter rearrangement and atomic bonding is another thought process. So when I put my kettle on in the morning and I turn on the flame and I'm combusting gas and heating water, what is actually happening is there is a thought process that is being represented by the transformation of the fabric of space, time, and consciousness. When light comes from the sun and the stars and becomes a part of matter through the process of photosynthesis, it is the evidence of a larger thought process. And when you drive along, like when I do this sometimes, I always watch the road, but I also think about these tiny, incredible, very, very fast presence pattern warpages of the fabric of space-time, and the patterns that they're making and the thought that that represents. It's a different form of language. It's a different form of thought expression than verbalized language. It's not that same level of linear symbolic thought expression, and it is an expression of thoughts. To reiterate, the idea is that when atoms are jumping from out of their neutral state outside of this vortex, and they jump into their next bond, that is when light intelligence is released. So I know I talk about like them like snoogling down into the comfy chair. I think it's maybe a better characterization to say that they energetically jump on in. And then when they do that, light is released. And the light that is released is intelligence. It's literally an aha moment. And we talk about that in our own human shorthand as like a light bulb moment. I don't know if people still say this, but it's like the light bulb went on. I got it. I understood. So think about it like that in that sense. Jump into the comfy chair. Aha. Someone is having an aha moment. Matter, divinity, divine intelligence, the fabric of space, time, and consciousness is having an aha moment. Fabric of reality is sentient itself. Light is sentient itself. All of this happens in order to create more light, which is more sentience and more self-awareness. The molecules are doing this dance, not randomly, in a very prescribed pattern, in order to learn more. And it represents a new formation, a new thought pattern. So a sign of new thought patterns, like the connection of the warping of gravity of space-time and light as a phenomenon, and light creating the warping in order to come into matter as photosynthesis, and then the space-time consciousness fabric warping as light is released in an aha moment. Like all of this is the journey of the photon. All of this is the path of light. All of this is the journey of light, learning more as it does this stuff. I sometimes struggle with the limitations of language at being able to talk about these things. You already understand that light does not have mass, but it is being affected by or is affecting and creating gravity, which affects things that do have mass. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes and making sure that I'm getting everything that's important here. And, you know, why go through the labors of talking about all this to you? Because it really does relate to your own journey of being a being who is not moving at the speed of light, and you're identifying with largely with your mass and what it is to return to being made of pure light, which is pure sentience and pure consciousness. As you're moving into that state of being, what is happening is you're starting to redefine matter as being made out of light, and all of the behaviors that we see matter do, and that are sometimes taken for granted or as a matter of course, in the world around us are actually evidences of consciousness, which is light. So all of these things have been going on all around you and probably around humanity for many hundreds or thousands or millions of years. But you have to be able to have the decoder to look at them and know light is happening. Light is making these things happen. These are cognitive events, and that they represent thought forms. You are living within one of those ballooning fabric of space-time ruffles. You live within that. That's these fabric of events. That I wake up, I put on the kettle, I turn on the gas, and I make coffee. That is a narrative structure that contains the journey of a photon that is on its path of light. It is moving as light. It is becoming matter. It is being recombusted as matter back into light. Some of it is moving through me as both heat and also nourishment, and then also being transmitted back to the sun and the stars as cognitive experience, which is also light. So as you're learning all of this, these are like, it's just like an exercise program. If you can do one of these, and then you can do 10 of these, and then you can do 10 pull-ups, then you're ready to do one of these types of backflips, right? This like acrobatics training. You're getting into the point of being able to see and define everything as light. Whereas in the past, I told you, like, Einstein's a good teacher, but gave you some problems along with some solutions. He gave you this: light versus matter in constant dualistic opposition. And what I'm trying to show you is light and matter are a continuum. And you're constantly seeing the shift and the interplay of light into matter and matter into light. And at a certain point, you move beyond that hard-edged definition of some stuff is matter and I can touch it with my hands and my senses and feel it, and some stuff is light and I can't touch it. Like, how much does a light beam weigh? Like, it doesn't weigh anything. I can't touch it. And then how does my brain and my cognitive awareness, how do I reconcile that seeming dichotomy? And that has been some of the inner conflict that humanity has faced for a long amount of time. This information is meant to be like steps on the journey to resolving that inner conflict and removing any dichotomy from matter versus light or matter versus energy, and moving you into a state of mind where it is all a sea of light, and it is all a continuum of intelligence. And the intelligence has behavior, and the behavior is also intelligence. And then even the arrangement of that intelligence is intelligently arranged. And this is the definition of a non-entropy system, a system that becomes more and more intelligent as it continues onward. This is very different than the materialistic viewpoint of reality that materialism science gives to you, that says the universe started out at this level of organization and vastness, hotness, and complexity. And now it's slowly pooping out over time. That's what I talk about, the inevitable entropic heat death of the universe. But that is not what's going to happen. But that is what happens on what is one linear level of reality viewpoint, starting from a higher level of organization into a lower level of organization. But how do we comprehend something like birth? And birth happens all the time, where you have something where it's like less organized becoming more organized. I once heard of the process of birth being described as unlikely as if you put all of the components of, like a finely made Swiss watch or like a grandfather clock or something like that, into a large paper bag, just shook the whole thing up and then kind of dumped it out. And then was like, oh, look at that. Like, it all assembled itself perfectly into a perfectly moving clock that then is going to, have a certain amount of life force and then devolve over time. Like, that clockwork mechanism thought form of picture of reality and view of the materialistic universe is not accurate. It's a very, very limited slice. Again, appropriate to a certain level of human development, but not the ultimate destination of where you are going. So now it is time for you to eat more light. Like the babies move from baby food to solid food. Eat more light, or like the plants get more leaves and are able to go out from like the little shady greenhouse area into the middle of the field and actually receive more light. Like receive more light and integrate more light into your definition of reality and start to see light everywhere. The things don't end, that they actually get more complex. So I should say events. The the story of the cosmos, the cosmic infrastructure, and the way that reality is created, it does not become less organized. It didn't start out great and then poop out and then end up terrible. No. And that, by the way, is the definition, the Greek definition of what is a tragedy. Starts out happy, ends up sad. No, this is actually something that is continually growing and flowering, like coming forward in its levels of complexity. It started out pretty complex, and it's only getting more complex from there. It started out with an enormous amount of information, and it is only getting more informed from there, not less informed. So this journey of light, the path of light, the journey that the photon takes into the form of matter and then out of the form of matter back into energy again. This is all part of exploration of and creation of new levels of information, non-randomness, very high levels of intention, and very high levels of like specificity. Again, the word non-randomness, thought forms that are not random. And these are all life supportive thought forms that are about continuation of reality and the sustenance of reality. Okay, so that's pretty good. Questions, comments, and anything that I can help you to comprehend things more. Okay, so Kim Rose also says, once observership takes place, does the matter become permanent and other observers simply see what is already created? So this is also very, very good to consider, because yes and no, and that's, maybe not the most satisfying answer for you, because you want to know, like, if I look at something, I'm making a thing with my observership. If I turn away and remove my observership, is the thing still there? Thing is still there, yes. But and also some things have their own self-observership that sustains them. And also some things are sustained by other organisms' observership too. So I use the example of a tree, which I think is not the most perfect example, but I love trees. But a tree is self-sentient and it observes itself. So even if I am not observing that tree, the tree is observing itself, and it is sustaining itself as matter. And there are also other organisms like microorganisms and insects and other things that are observing that tree, that if I am not the only one looking at it and sustaining it, that it is sustained by those other things. So, but that's not the only, so who made it? Who initiated it? Who initiated the creation of that matter to be observed or experienced from anyone? And then who is sustaining it if attention is taken away from it? I would say matter is created through this intelligence and through these intentionalities, and it is definitely sustained through intentionalities. I would say you do also have to have some level of focused attention to sustain matter, and that if you don't sustain it with your attention, that it won't necessarily just continue to be there. But that would be like, let's say, something that doesn't have its own life force. So not a tree, but maybe like whatever, a piece of metal or a piece of stone, even though technically like metal and stone, these are crystalline objects. So let's go into it, because crystal and stone and things like that, these are non-biological, but they are matter. And there is such a thing as mineral consciousness. I know. And you do not have to worry about the care and feeding of your pet rock. It's not going to die if you don't give it water and sunlight, in the same way that a plant will die but it does have consciousness. In fact, when I give my simplistic sharing here about photosynthesis, I really do not tell you enough about the soil and the aspects of light that are contained in the minerals at the level of roots in the soil. So let's go into it. Because I try to keep things, it's already pretty complex to try to articulate as simple and accessible as I can. But of course, unless you have an air plant, and they do exist, which are rootless plants that are epiphytes that mostly live on like just spritzes of humidity. But most plants require soil with roots. And what the roots are doing is some of the similar types of things that are happening in your digestive tract and at the level of your mitochondria in terms of accessing microminerals. And these microminerals are, again, molecularly stored light that are necessary for life. Is anybody in this class a gardener? I'm sure somebody in this class is a gardener. Somebody out there grows tomatoes. You know about NPK. You know that these plants will not grow in depleted soil. What does that mean? There's not enough minerals in the soil. You also know that if the pH of the soil is not correct, the minerals are inaccessible to the plant. There can be great minerals there for it to be able to absorb and use as part of its creation of cellulose and other body form structures, but it can't access them because of the wrong acidity that is in the soil. And that's similar to your digestive tract when you do not have good mineral absorption in your own body. You can be eating food, but it's not actually absorbing and going into you because of whatever digestive upset or problems or imbalances that you have. So the soil itself is also a huge part of, let's say, the quotient of light that is required for the sustenance of life. Soil is alive. It has minerals in it. It has consciousness in it. It has structure. People don't know enough about this because mostly people are either working with very depleted soil, they are familiar with monocropping and industrialized agricultural processes that don't respect the soil, and they are looking at soil that has no structure. But I would like for you to consider soil that is alive in the sense of soil that is on a prairie that has been that way for hundreds of years. And the roots of the plants go down like 12 feet. And there's all of these complex, not only living structures that would be like roots in mycelium, but also air pockets, like the crumb of bread, like the patterns and the air pockets of bread, the structure of soil, the structure of minerals that are in there, the way that the minerals transmit information, are taken up by plants and are released by plants. So light is held within the dance, the movement of minerals like calcium. Calcium is going to come out of here and it's going to go into here. And how is that done? And who is dance partnering with whom? That's light. And again, usually the soil is extremely disturbed. So you've got like modern plows that plow through, and everything is just done for 1 year. And none of this is done with any level of sensitivity, except for very, very few regenerative farmers that are learning how to love and care for their soil in a way that it builds structure. When your soil builds a structure, you get more intelligent plants that contain more light, that when you eat them, you contain more light, of course. Yeah, so lack of intelligence is making the soil less intelligent, clearly. And then also some of these other horrible chemicals like glyphosate are stripping minerals out of the soil, and that this is devastating to the future of the health of the soil as well. That it's taking intelligence out of the environment. And so, I mean, sorry, now we're getting out the path of light, but we're getting into like, you don't live in a very intelligent environment, guys. And definitely the soil reflects that. So you would want to, in whatever way possible, like if you own your own farm or have your own places where you live, you're able to build the soil over years. And that's through this undisturbed way of being able to grow and layer the nutrients and build these networks of intelligence in there that are part of the complexity of the supercomputer system, biological supercomputer system of the world that includes plants. But don't worry, like, something, I've got my house plants here. They're in potted plants from the garden center. They are not in prairie soil. They have not been here for hundreds of thousands of years. There's still a beautiful amount of intelligence available to me just from these potted plants. So please, like, don't take any of that, deeply inside and be like, oh no, like my soil isn't smart enough. What am I going to do? You can still grow beautiful gardens in raised container beds with soil that you get from the garden center, but please don't internalize all of this in the wrong way. But please know that we're not doing it correctly. We got to change our whole way of doing it. And I don't know if I transformed you enough in terms of your relationship with food, because there's so much stuff about like sugar-free this, sugar-free that. Don't eat carbs and glucose. Carbs make you fat, sugar will make you fat, all these things. I hope that what I've shared with you today about glucose being a miracle, it is a miracle molecule, and it is absolutely your friend. And this is coming from me, as of course, I'm very focused on health. And for many, many years, I avoided, like processed sugars and even starches, and do all these different things for low glycemic eating to maintain a neutral blood sugar, right? And those are all positive physical practices. But I will tell you that through learning about what glucose is, I have transformed my relationship to the molecule that is known as sugar. And I still avoid genetically modified objects and, processed sugars and things like that. But I do not see sugar as an enemy at all anymore. And now I see it as a beautiful building block that is one of the necessary stages that light goes through on its transformative experience, as it is moving through stages of matter and moving through me as stages of matter. So I want you to know that as you start to activate your light body, become light, become part of this continuum of light, all of those judgments fall away. And also all of the judgments of the orthodoxy of food also fall away. You are not trapping food, light energy in your body when you eat food. The food is not sad that it is becoming a part of you. It is celebratory that it is becoming a part of you. Even if you're eating animals, so much judgment against eating animals. They are also made of light, and you are eating light. And that it is celebrated that you're eating that, it becomes a part of you, and then it becomes a part of this consciousness experiment. All of those things of eating light and in let's say internalizing light, ingesting it, embodying it, all of those things are very sacred, positive, and righteous. This is path of light, but I'll just very briefly acknowledge, like in my other classes, when I talk about stuff that is anti-freedom and soul stealing, because soul is your trajectory of your consciousness. Something that steals your soul is something that takes away your free will, makes you less of your true self, distorts the fabric of space-time. Everything that I'm teaching you about here in the path of light is like the idealized world. We let those other things go by the wayside. But please know that those soul-stealing, reality distortion, creatures or fragments or whatever, they are doing something that is very, very harmful to the fabric of space-time. If they eat and ingest and take a part of your consciousness or your energy, or distort or destroy an aspect of your soul, or you become a part of them, they're consuming you, you don't want to be a part of them, any of that type of stuff, that is bad and wrong. I totally agree. But what I'm talking about is the beauty of when you eat a plant, an animal, an object, a mineral, it comes inside of you, and you're not like some bad, wrong, evil thing that is stealing and taking something off of its journey. And then it's like it's a chicken that's like, I was just trying to be a chicken, and then all of a sudden this mean person came along and ate me. No, stuck inside of them for forever. It is not like that at all. That is not it. It is actually very, very joyous. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about combustion and what is happening in the form of combustion. Like light becomes glucose in the process of photosynthesis. It becomes cellulose, it becomes wood. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to carry this piece of wood around. until one day I'm going to decide to either make a campfire or a torch out of it. And then I'm going to combust it. The tree is not sad. The light is not sad that it became part of a tree. The tree is not sad that you took part of it, carried it around for a certain amount of time, and then burned it in a campfire or as a torch. It is all celebrated. It is all, when it is done correctly, like according to these correct thought forms, part of this path of light. So, okay, let me back over here. Another question says, Kim says, I live on the coast where the morning sun is often under the veil of fog. Is sun gazing still effective when you can't see through clouds or fog? Suggestions for days like this? I actually do, because you know something? Sometimes where I live, there's thick marine layer that is normal in the morning, but sometimes where I live, it is artificially induced. Like if you have a blue sky and then you have the white aerosols that go across the blue sky, and you're like, huh, it was nice and sunny. Now there's white lines. And then the next day you wake up and it's all like heavy clouds and feels very oppressive and not like a very nice emotional feeling. I have a solution. And this actually came to me from a lovely person who was at my retreat recently, who demonstrated and taught all of us that if you boil a small amount of vinegar outside, it literally clears up those clouds. So I started doing that literally 2 days ago, and it worked every morning. And it doesn't have to be a large amount of vinegar, and it doesn't have to be a large flame either. So of course, this is not necessarily path of light stuff, because it kind of acknowledges the crapitude that's going on, the non-ideal aspects of our present situation. But yes, if you've got chem clouds in your area, so first of all, orgonites help and cloud busters help. And people are building those in all sorts of different places. What are cloud busters? What are orgonites? From the work of Wilhelm Reich, this guy was one of like the most suppressed scientists ever. Not a total endorsement of the man, but I think his work is valid. And he made these things called cloud busters that had like these giant long tubes of energy. And he talked about collecting orgone energies. This is all like non-materialistic, but science. And so they suppressed it. They didn't want this to be known by other people, but it is a valid perception of the world, and about these are valid contraptions to try to make. So you can make your own cloud busters. Some of them go into like resin at the bottom, like copper tubes that go into resin at the bottom. Some of them you can just dig them right into the earth, where you put all sorts of minerals and water into like a little divot in the earth, and then plant some of these copper tubing up there, and that helps a lot. But if you don't have a lot of money, or you don't live in a place where you can stick a bunch of copper tubing into the ground, don't worry. You can afford some vinegar, a few dollars, and like a little candle. And you have to be fire safe though. Put a little dish over the candle with some vinegar in it outside, and you will be amazed at how much that clears up the clouds. Yeah, so there's definitely some science behind it in terms of the acetic acid, the ions, and what's going on, but there's definitely also some intentions behind it. So you can experiment with trying to clear the clouds and do some cloud busting with either vinegar or some of these larger, more contraptions that are more of an investment or whatever. But then what if you can't clear the clouds? Yes, you can still connect with light very, very effectively with your mind non-locally. This is definitely black belt stuff, or like high level acrobatics. So when I first moved to Northern California, that was in 2014, I was not used to the cloud cover there at all. And I thought I was moving to sunny California. I was very disappointed at how cloudy it was. I didn't know Northern California would be that way. And it was very challenging for me, because I thought I was going to get beautiful, clear, sunny days all the time. And it was cloudy a lot of the time. So I had to learn how to send my mind beyond the clouds. And the best definition that I have for that is when you have an airplane, like here's the cloud layer down here, here's the sun, my face is the sun, and then here's where the airplane flies. If you've ever been in a plane like that, it's like, oh, look at that. Up here above the clouds, there's plenty of sun, no problem at all. With your mind, you have to somehow get to that layer up above the clouds. And in order to do that, I do a lot of flying rainbow lasagna. So that was my muscle building activity at that point in my life, where I learned how to meditate and go beyond the cloud cover to be able to access the sun. This can still be very effective to each one of us because there are not only clouds, but also sometimes now particulates or even false light screens in front of the true sun. Again, we usually talk about in path of light, but practicality that you might have to deal with, jump beyond the false light. And that can be really challenging too, because this false light is not just like some easy passive thing. It was put there as an obstacle. So I'm pretty much like saying like, oh, just get past that obstacle course and you'll be just fine. Don't worry about it. She's like, it's not that easy. I'm like, I know, I have attitude too. Believe me. Very, very challenging to be able to move past the obstacles and actually access the real sun. Let's think about it in terms of the esoteric teachings that I give to you. The false light and the illusions. This is literally erroneous information, bad math, stuff that's not true. When the chemtrails are not true, the false light is not true, the sun simulator is not true, the narratives and the description about reality that it gives to you is not true. The mentality and the mind state that created that technology or those artificial expressions is not true. You are looking at a lot of untruth. And so what I ask for people to do in Path of Light is focus away from that which is untrue and get only into focusing on what is true just for a couple of weeks. And so when you're driving around and when you're drive safely, focus on the road, don't hit pedestrians, but also focus on the path of light. You're like, wow, look at all this photosynthesis going on out here. That is all light. That is all light, and it is all this amazing gravitational transformation experience of the fabric of space-time and consciousness all around me at all times. And that is part of what is sustaining life. Let's also talk about heat as a necessary level of intelligence for photosynthesis to even happen, as I was just teaching you about soil health and mineral availability. Do you guys know if you can plant a seed in the winter? Class, what do you say? If I put a seed outside at, 20 degrees Fahrenheit, will I plant my garden? Will it grow? What do you say? And you're all like, Rory, you're making that SpongeBob face. I'm like, I know. You're like, no, it's not going to grow. Of course not. That's silly. Don't plant your seeds in the middle of the winter. That is dumb. It's not going to grow. Why not? Because it's not warm enough. And heat is a form of intelligence that is needed to be in the soil and in the air to be able to make these processes happen. Heat is needed in order to have the minimum amount of intelligence for water to be liquid and also for oxygen to be a gas, as opposed to water to be frozen solid and oxygen to be frozen solid. Of all these things that I taught you about today, and again, thank you for your love and comprehension of every time if I'm not very smooth in all of my delivery and trying to share this with you, doing my best. But all these things have something in common, and that is oxygen, the need to add oxygen. Combustion means you got to have some oxygen in its gaseous form ready to combust something. Cellular respiration, you need oxygen to breathe. And also, of course, to burn and to make something happen, to oxidize something, you need to have oxygen available. If oxygen is frozen, it is not doing anything. It is not going to be jumping in and out of any comfy chairs or into any sofa beds or anything like that. It's not doing anything. All right. So if you have not enough heat on a planet, then that planet cannot support life. It cannot support these complex structures and complex dialogues that are happening between the warping of the fabric of space-time. Oxygen being, here's two oxygen friends. They're stuck together. And in order for them to be unbonded, you need light. And you need to make sure they're in an environment that has enough heat, enough ambient intelligence for them to not be frozen. And then they can go off and they can respirate or oxygenate or combust with something, oxidize or combust with something. And also forgive me if I ever misspeak with my words. You need to have a baseline of intelligence in your world that is a certain amount of warmth that makes it possible for these procedures to even happen, to then give rise to even greater levels of intelligence, such as biological life and the cognitive processes that are involved in self-awareness and self-sentience of biological cognitive life. So just making matter isn't enough. There's also the need for having enough innate intelligence in the matter that is made so that even more intelligence can come up. Well, guys, it might be time to end class because guess what? Princess Cheeky just got out of bed. Let's hug Cheeky. Hugs Cheeky. It might be time for us to go and do something that's fun for her. Come here, girl. Come here. Let's have a little hug. Wait, I'll tilt the camera so you can see her a little bit more, and then we'll say maybe so long for right now. Good job. All right, awesome. So Cheeky's totally a photon on the path of light. Very good. Thank you for allowing me this lightheartedness, guys. We got to do it sometimes. If there are not, oh, there you go. I'll just see if there's any more questions or comments. But I think that I might need to go have some fun with Cheeky. Might need to walk around and marvel at the miracle of photosynthesis at the park or something good like that. Cheeky loves to roll on grass. She really, really does appreciate, sorry about that. She really does appreciate photosynthesis from the perspective of a dog. She's like, oh, I love to roll on grass so much. You got it. You also got it. You're very, very welcome. Absolutely. Kim, still pleased to answer questions. Thank you for being a great student and for all those things. Michelangelo, you're very welcome. Thank you as always for the ways that you are so beautiful as a respectful student. And Mary Ellen says, thank you. You're very welcome. Christopher says, thank you. And hi, Cheeky. Cheeky. Friend says, hi. And Joyce says, thank you, Professor. Love to Cheeky too. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for loving and appreciating Cheeky. And CC says, thank you for everything. Love the Aurora. You are so welcome. I have to give you guys nothing but praise and admiration. Thank you for coming here to the heavy weightlifting class. You can all now take off your heavy weightlifting belts, take off all of your gloves and everything else that you wear to be able to, do all this difficult stuff. Hydrate, refuel your bodies, have a rest, go do something fun, relax a break. Do the equivalent of walking to the park with your dog, okay? Thank you very much, everyone, and I appreciate you greatly. Thank you.